NSC Fan TV. Reid and I are here, and we were wanting to talk about some transfer possibilities. Maybe talk a little bit about a little post-mortem after the game away at Colorado.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, a while back, but definitely still a game worth talking about.
Got to go into the Wayback Machine, but three fast goals. So, Reid, let's talk. We were talking a little bit about the right back situation and sort of upgrade possibilities at right back. And there's still the sort of the Shaq Moore rumor. Tell us about what that means. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I mean, with Shaq Moore, he's obviously the name that a lot of NSC fans look to. There were rumors earlier in the season once we lost Johnston. They were saying, I think Mike Jacobs said that he was actually looking to upgrade at the right back position after getting rid of Johnston. Of course, the signing didn't happen, and now the situation is Shaq Moore's club in Spain right now is currently in the promotion playoffs. They actually have the promotion final on Saturday, the same day we play San Jose Earthquakes. And I guess it would just be my intuition that if his team wins that and gets promoted, he will stay. But potentially if they stay in the second division in Spain, he might want a loan move to MLS just to get more playing time, or maybe a permanent move. I always thought more of as a loan possibility, but there's definitely still a chance. There's not too much smoke with the situation right now, but I saw a tweet from, I want to say it was Tom Bogert. It was some reliable MLS journalist who said that if Moore were to come to MLS, it would be Nashville. So it kind of just a matter of if MLS is right for him, and if the situation looks like he needs more playing time and things like that. But I think the question for us at NSC is, do we need Shaq Moore at this point?
That's the question.
Because he's a right back, and he seems to have the ability to play right wing back, and we'd like to play our back three and wing back system. But Alex Muyl has done a pretty good job filling in that position that Johnston used to play last season. I mean, we were a little more worried about it early in the year. He got that start against the Columbus Crew, and ever since that game, he's kind of taken off. He had that, of course, the beautiful goal against Montreal.
Beautiful goal, yeah.
Can't forget that one, but just various different moments throughout the season where he's shown a lot of hustle and shown a lot more skill than we had seen from him in his first two seasons at NSC. So I guess the question for us to discuss here is, do we need a new right back?
So, and Johnston a lot of the time was playing with the sort of the Smith back four. And so was playing on the right, and so with the three, Johnston probably wouldn't have been the sort of the other of the three backs. He would have been on the outside on the wing there, and so I think that Muyl has got the hustle and has got the speed that Johnston has, maybe a little bit more than Johnston had.
Really? I would say he has more hustle, but I don't know. I feel like Johnston has more natural speed.
Maybe more natural speed. So one thing that you can always count on from Muyl is that he's going to give you 100% for 90 minutes. He'll be as fast at the end of 90 as he was at the beginning. Maybe not as fast as Johnson at the beginning of the 90. So maybe the speed. Maybe we'll call it push. I think that Johnston is maybe still the more skilled of the players.
I think so.
But Alex's hustle and his sort of grit gets him into spots. Johnston is maybe the more reliable defensive player of the two. But the issue here is not whether or not we are pursuing Johnston and whether or not we've sort of dropped off with Muyl. Johnston's gone, so that's beside the point. The question is whether or not we need that kind of upgrade. And I guess the other issue is, do we have other players on the field or other options that we would be able to rotate in there? So we have really the question of whether or not some of our left wing backs could come in and sort of play an inverted winger on the other side. We'd seen Lovitz come in and play that. And so we've got some mobility there, but the question is, do we need the upgrade there? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think right now, when you look at the main starting 11, I think we're good as we are, because I love the back three of Romney, Zimmerman, and Mayer. And of course, for the San Jose game coming up, we're going to have to be without Zimmerman because he's on U.S. national team duty until, I want to say, the 14th. So
who's our third?
Yeah, we'll have to improvise there. We might drop to a back four. We might put Miller in at right center back. We might give a start to Longmire or Bauer.
We've got choices.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look at the regular starting 11 who's going to be playing game in and game out, which Gary Smith likes to do. He rotated a lot in 2020, but we saw it in last season and this season. Unless we have really congested fixtures, he likes to put the same 11 out every week.
And make him play almost 90.
Right. And I like the current 11. I mean, I think the defense is pretty solid with that back three. Mayer is a pretty good depth center back. Obviously, I would say the best center back in the league in Zimmerman. Romney, a terrific left center back there, and got lots of experience both in the league in general and with Nashville. And Mayer, younger guy, the more playing time he gets, he seems to get better every time he's on the field.
I agree.
And he did struggle a little bit against Louisville, but other than that, he has been super solid all year. So I think the defensive structure is good. We haven't been conceding too much, especially at home. Usually if we concede one, we're able to score two and get back in front. And I think Lovitz, if you need a fourth defender, he can drop back well enough. So I don't think Muell's defensive skill set is really much of a liability to us. And he's not a horrible defender, but of course he's not a defender by nature. But I don't think that Nashville really struggles in the right back and right wing back positions. And I think Mayer, he's able at that right center back position to sort of drift over and cover that wing if needed. I think the defense is in a really solid position. I think the more they play together, the more comfortable they are with one another. So
you're just not thinking that we have to use the word need.
Yeah, I don't think so. And
we could use an upgrade, and Jack
exactly.
Moore would be an upgrade.
I think so.
We recognize that.
But at the same time, I mean,
where are the needs then?
Yeah, well, to play a little devil's advocate to support Shaq Moore, let's say we bring Moore in. He's played majority of the season at right wing back / right midfield, depending on how on the front foot attacking we want to be.
Pushing forward.
MLS is a league that requires lots of depth to go far, and Wheel, obviously there'd be some depth at that right wing back position. They can both push each other. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And if Moore got the start there, Wheel can always move up to play right wing or get subbed on to do that, because for the entirety of last season, Wheel was getting subbed on for players like Leal and Mukhtar to play a more attacking role. So he could do that too. Of course, I would be happy with a Shaq Moore signing. If we were to sign him, I would say this is great. He's played in the national team. He seems to be a top talent when it comes to the level of MLS. But I do think we could invest our money a little bit better, because right now, like you said, you can move Lovitz over to the right wing back and put in Washington, because Washington
playing quite well.
I mean, he's, especially for a guy, I see some people hating on him on Twitter. I don't understand that at all, because Washington, he's another guy like Wheel. He always puts in 100% hustle.
Right.
And he's a fan favorite for that reason. But at the end of the day, it's not just hustle that gets him by. He does have a good skill set.
He's got skill.
He knows how to play the game. He plays his position well. He's great at whipping in those crosses. So I think if you're looking for the depth, and if a player were to get hurt, or you just need some squad rotation, if you start to get players out on international duty and or more U.S. Open Cup fixtures coming up, you can always go with the Washington Lovitz partnership at the different wing-back positions. So I think NSC is good in terms of depth. And let's not forget, if my calculations are right, we have about $3 million to play with, because we, over the offseason, I don't know if you saw, we sold a lot of international spots for general allocation money to various teams, and the price of those international spots kept on rising, and we seem to be selling them at just the right time, because we don't really have much of a need for international spots. Most of our international players have become U.S. citizens because they've been in MLS for long enough. Like I'm pretty sure Godoy, he plays for the Panama national team. I don't think he takes up international spot, because I believe he's a U.S. citizen. There's various players are like that. And I think I saw something about Mukhtar potentially doing that as well, and being on the path to citizenship to not take up an international spot. So we have lots of money lying around. The problem is I don't know where we should invest it. I think maybe a striker
up front.
But the thing is
because we have a problem with the front.
We do have a problem with the front, but we also don't seem to be good at solving our problems up front, because we signed Sapong. He has done great, especially for we always talk about this, for a free transfer coming from Chicago, a team who was really low in the table, and we got him, and still pretty low in the table. He's done fantastically. Of course, he's not going to be able to stay at that level forever. He's not going to be in the league forever.
And the part of his game that he brings is that he's a harasser of defenses. Mm-hmm. And we need somebody to, whenever he comes off the field, we don't just lose the talent and the sort of the focus that he brings. We just lose the disruption that he brings.
Yeah.
And so I really like your idea that if we did pick up more, we would be able to push Wheel forward. And he is somebody who could be absolute
even consider
harasser.
that.
He would just be a bee just buzzing around on him. So there would be another feature to Wheel's game that if we did push him forward and Moore came in, that it would help in the front, because the only other player that I've seen sort of play a version of that game was Bunbury at the beginning of the season, and again, he's not an option right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that, I saw Gary Smith said, I think something about 10 to 14 days he'll be back. From what I saw from him in the first couple games, I don't want him on the field too much. Maybe if we have a 3-0 lead or something that's late in the game, maybe get him more acquainted, with playing games for Nashville as opposed to just being on the training ground. But we're not up 3-0 that often.
Nope.
And I don't think he brings enough to the team. I don't think his level is high enough. He seems like he's lost a step in his game as he's aged. So that signing was always puzzling to me. But, at the striker position last year, we had 5 strikers in. We had Rios, Sapong, Baji, Cadiz, and Loba. So we've gotten rid of Cadiz, Baji, Rios out of those 5, right. And then we've added Bunbury, and we could potentially be adding another striker. So now it seems like we might be at this overload of depth if we were to get another striker. And of course, I mean,
Zubac's come on. Zubac has shown Zubac's shown some improvement. And
I didn't like what I saw from him in Louisville, though. But of course, I will say though, he did say on Twitter, he said he knows his game was not at his highest level then. So I think I like that attitude of
owning
up to it and trying to push himself to do better because he knows he can. But I think, I trust the NSC scouting department a lot because they've made some brilliant moves throughout the team's MLS history. But when it comes to the striker position or getting talented, international or otherwise high-profile talent, they kind of have struck out a few times. The 3 big-name signings NSC has made have been Hani Mukhtar, obviously success, Ake Loba, maybe there's still time for him, but so far not looking like it's success.
Incomplete at best.
And then Rodrigo Pinero, who he's out on loan right now. He's killing it, and I want to say the Chilean league, but he didn't really get a chance. Gary Smith didn't put him on the field that often when he was in Nashville. He seemed unhappy.
Seemed very unhappy, yeah.
There's, again, still a possibility. Maybe next season he comes back and gets back in the team and shakes things up. But right now, that one's also kind of starting to look like a failure. So I don't know. It might be a little bit too risky to spend that cash, that $2-3 million or something like that, if we want to blow it all on one player on a striker. And I think what could also happen, what I mainly want to see in the transfer market this summer, first of all, I want us to make some moves. I think depth is our biggest problem because at the central midfield position, great depth. We have 4 terrific central midfielders who have 2 spots to fight for. They constantly rotate. All of them bring a similar level of
defensive capacity, intelligence passing forward, controlling
their
the ball.
soccer IQ is fantastic. Yes. All 4 of them.
Agreed.
Can't say enough good things about those guys. And when one isn't on, you just put another in, and the team's back to where it started.
Works perfectly. Yeah. Central midfield is completely locked down. That is where we are. In fact, I think our best.
Yeah, and I think you look at the defense. Great back 3. Depth doesn't seem to be there too much, in that we have players who are on the bench. We have Longmire, Bauer. Castellanos has been injured for, I want to say, the entire season. But, he can come in. But, it doesn't seem like Gary Smith has enough confidence in Longmire or Bauer to come in. So potentially a solid number 4 center back who's not going to play all the time, but maybe subs in for Mayer or Romney every now and then. Maybe another left-footed center back could be a good move. Or just getting... I really just think we should get a couple more players who can be solid backups, because you look at attacking. I want to see us give Handwalla more of a chance, but he had the assist for the Mukhtar goal. He looked solid in that game.
That was more about Mukhtar's run and Mukhtar's control.
But I mean, there were multiple times he made some.
Juana saw him and made a good pass.
Yeah. Right. But he didn't look as strong in the Atlanta game. Zubac, I'm still not sold on him. Again, I'm not going to be out on a player after I've only seen him play a few times, but he doesn't look to me.
The Atlanta goal was amazing, but that's a long time ago now.
Yeah, and even then, that goal happened because of Mukhtar playing a beautiful through ball.
That's true.
That was one of the most perfect setups you could have had.
It's true.
So, I'm not going to say I'm out on him because I've only seen him play a few times, but he doesn't seem to bring that level we need. Hawkinson, he's a pretty on and off player. I like what Hawkinson brings. and I like to see him. But we're looking at a situation where we have Sapong, Leal, Mukhtar as our main front three. Hawkinson now and then, and those are kind of our guys up front. We don't have much. If one thing's not working, we don't have much to replace him with. Loba, of course, when he comes in the Philly game, I liked what he did, but other than that, he hasn't really changed the development and the style of play to bring more attacking force, to bring more speed, or to catch the defense on its heels.
And what did you think about his game against Louisville? Did you think it was a good game? He had a goal.
He had the goal, but again, that's just. I could have been out there, and I could. That was a great play by Hawkinson.
I think he should have. I think that he should have had maybe two. I think that there was an offside that I don't think that he was actually.
Yeah, the offside. I think
he was completely free.
Yeah, and of course there's no VAR in the U.S. Open Cup, but yeah, yes. But I think against a USL Championship side, if you're a $7 million striker coming from Liga MX, you can't afford to only score basically a tap in. And that was kind of pretty reliant on the cross by Hawkinson and the long ball by I want to say Romney.
I think it was Romney. Out from the back. Yeah, that's right.
One of the center backs. So I think he needs to bring more to the team, and I don't think he does. So a lot of people are.
So we're going to give it an incomplete, or are we going to give him a letter grade now? I mean, because the time for us to make a decision about whether or not this is a bust and whether or not we move in another direction is coming.
Well, the thing is, a lot of fans are saying Ake out, and maybe we'll sell him in the summer. But the problem is, we bought the guy for roughly $7 million. I don't think he'd sell for $1 million.
No.
And somebody there's another team out there who will probably, if we decide to sell in the summer, sign him, and it could end up being they could.
He was doing great there. Like, would they want him back?
They could sign him, had a great bargain, and he could come in and change, and just completely change his level of play. And that would kind of hurt to see. But yeah. I can just feel it coming. I can feel us saying, all right, it doesn't work. Let's cut our losses. And then next year he just blows up. Yeah. I can see that. But I think if we stick with him any longer, I don't know if much is going to change. So I think now could be the time to move on from Loba. Now, when it comes to moving on from Loba and changing things up front, there is one rumor that is pretty disputed as to how true it is or not, but Christian Sakaza, he is a Honduran. Some people are center forward. I think is the best position for him as far as I can tell about where he plays. Some people call him a winger. Some people call him an attacking midfielder. He was linked with Nashville through a report from a Honduran journalist, and then an MLS news account recently, I want to say it was 3 days ago, kind of debunked that rumor, and that a Nashville SC club spokesman says that they were not interested in signing the player, and now it's looking more like there might be interest from Houston and Dallas. So the question here is whether or not there's truly fire to the smoke. Would another player like Sakaza help us out, or would it be worth investing in another young, seemingly promising attacking player who may or may not be ready for MLS yet? Because of course you can look at his highlights on YouTube all you want, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to tell how ready he is from a couple of videos of goals he scored in the Honduran league, because it's just pretty apples to oranges. So whether it's Sakaza, whether this is a true development, or if it's some other player who kind of fits that model of the young attacking player coming from another league, would it be worth it to invest and maybe try another experiment like the Rodrigo Pinero experiment, where you sign the young player and see if it works? Because like we said, so far it seems like we're 1 for 3 when it comes to getting these bigger names, sexier kind of signings. And we get more slots if we go with young players too. So if we and I think that I think that the rule is that if we go with someone under 23, we can choose someone who we can actually get more slots. So in fact we can have more chances. Yeah, the rules, I still really am not clear on the different MLS rules in terms of roster development, because there are so many of them. But I remember when we signed Pinero, he was considered a young DP who I think did not take away a normal DP spot. That's right. And originally it was looking like the original report from the Honduran journalist said that his current club, Honduras Progreso, I think it was called, did not want his contract is coming to an end. They didn't want to re-sign him, so it would be a free transfer. the one I saw from the MLS news account that was debunking the interest from Nashville is saying that the club wants $750,000 for the transfer. So it's hard to tell, especially in these smaller leagues. You know, your transfer market websites that give you this information are not going to be as reliable as they would be for the Premier League or La Liga or whatever. Just there's less coverage, so it's unclear actually, as far as we can tell, what his contract details are, whether it would be a free transfer, whether it would be a transfer fee, how high that transfer fee would be. But I do know that if it's an international signing and there's no transfer fee, then the only thing that would make him a DP would be paying a salary above the MLS salary requirements, which for a young player wouldn't necessarily be likely. So that, you know, Nashville now has all three DP spots taken. That's right. Zimmerman's taking that third spot after his new contract came out. But this signing, or maybe another signing like it, probably would not take up a DP spot, which is something interesting. And it's hard to find game-changing talent in the transfer market without it being a DP signing.
Yeah, that's not going to be on the DP level. And so that, by the way, is one of the questions about upgrading generally.
And that's why it might be worth instead investing in some MLS players who are maybe backups for their teams.
Right.
But, you know, you can get them for a lower fee. You don't have to worry about the different MLS rules. Or
looking at players who are in other leagues who would be happy to come back to the MLS.
That's true.
And so so folks that have done well and maybe their team has been relegated might be an option. Where we're looking at someone on playing, for example. I mean, just looking at anyone who's playing in any of the major leagues where they've got a relegated team and an American who's come up to the MLS, and you say, look, you want to play in the MLS now?
Right. So, and I mean, I think I heard. I'm not sure exactly what Matthew Hoppy's team situation is, but somebody was saying maybe Hoppy would be a good guy to bring to Nashville. I believe
Captain Annoying.
I believe he plays for some team in Spain. I think they're in the lower league. Again, I haven't looked into this as much. I didn't look into Hoppy before we made this video, but
sure.
You know, he played at Schalke for a little bit, and then I think now he's in the Spanish league. I thought I heard something about Stu Holden being a partial owner of his team in Spain. So, you know, definitely an American guy. He had some time with the American national team. If I am not mistaken, an American owner, or at least partial owner. That could be something. There could be a development there. But I also, you know, when it comes to Nashville SC's trouble scouting internationally or scouting these top talents, Nashville SC has scouted terrifically in MLS, as far as I can tell, or just domestically in general, because we got Brian Anunga from the Charleston Battery in the USL Championship. Our entire core that we got from the expansion draft and the trades we made with the allocation money we were given, you know, guys like Dan Lovitz, Annabelle Godoy, guys like that, Dave Romney, big one, Joe Willis. Yep. I mean, these are all terrific signings that were kind of more or less nobodies on their previous teams. I shouldn't say nobody, because I think Godoy was
San Jose.
I think he was a pretty relevant guy for San Jose. But him aside, I think a lot of our signings were guys who were not as in favor at their previous clubs, and they've come in and now they've established themselves as MLS starters and MLS.
So looking around
talents.
the MLS and maybe looking at the top of the USL could be something that again wouldn't have to use DP money to be able to pursue those, and would be people who would be happy to stay in this continent and in the.
And we have a lot of money where we can go out and we can get a lot of. We can make a lot of moves with the money we have this summer, because we really stocked up on that money with the Johnston transfer fee, or the Johnston transfer sale, and the sale of a lot of those international spots. Nashville has a lot of money that's just kind of been sitting there, as far as I can tell, with nowhere to go to. So potentially moves like that could help. And
so another question is, so we've been talking about needs and wants or upgrade possibilities. We still have one more position that in some ways there's been a little bit of conversation about, and that's at the goalkeeper.
Yep.
And so we have a handful. We have Willis having some good games. We've had Willis with some mistakes in some games that some of them cost us points. And then we saw Panico with a pretty good game against Louisville. And a pretty good game. I think the only criticism is that I think that he might have set up the wall and maybe not been in the right spot for the spot kick against Colorado. So maybe some questions to you about, like, what are you thinking about the goalkeeper position? What are you expecting to see on Saturday?
Well, see, were you surprised that Panico got the start against Colorado?
I was a little bit surprised.
I was pretty surprised
I
too.
have to admit, I was.
I wasn't surprised at all about the Louisville start because
happy to see it.
He came from the championship, playing a championship side. He had played against Louisville previously in the season, so that one wasn't a surprise. And it would seem random to call somebody up and then not play them when it seemed like that was his game to play. But the Colorado one did surprise me, and it made me think. I'm not too concerned about Willis' starting spot, and I'll explain why. The Colorado game, as we've seen it in various away games this season, the priority is, it seems like the strategy is put out your best possible lineup, do everything you can to win at home, and then away, just do the best you can. You can live with the draw, basically try to avoid losing. So I think for an away game, especially after that long stretch of games, they say, you know what, let's just give Panico a chance because, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, but he has more MLS experience, and we know then he's not the guy or something.
We put him in a tough situation, and we see if he can pitch his way out. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, fine.
And I would say it's hard to evaluate where Panico is right now in terms of MLS because he had one start against a championship team and another start where the rare Nashville SC goal explosion happened in the first 20 minutes, so it wasn't...
And then there was just really one chance from them.
Right. It wasn't really a true opportunity to evaluate where he is in terms of skill level, which I guess the plan of getting him in to see what he can do in MLS for one game kind of backfired, and if Gary Smith wants to see, he might have to risk playing him again. I actually think...
So let me put one other thing in here about, just in terms of one point that's been made about Joe Willis's numbers and about his game, which is that Joe Willis has been a goalkeeper that has benefited. This is, again, not my estimate. This is an estimate that's out there, is that he's benefited from the quality of defense around him. Yeah. So he's a good goalkeeper, or maybe an adequate goalkeeper with an excellent defense in front of him, which makes him look like a really, really good goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. And so whenever serious chances come his way, he's revealed to be just the merely adequate goalkeeper that he is. So a question then is that if that's the case, would, looking at, you might say, bringing along another goalkeeper that in the next 6 months or maybe in the next year are going to have more upsides, would that be a good path? Or whether or not do we stick with Joe and the communication that he got with that defense, and then we'll see where things end up at the end of the season?
Well, I think it could be bad mojo to bring another goalie in from the transfer market because, we have our main starter, Willis. Panico is the backup who just got called up. You have Will Meyer, who was drafted recently, and then Brian Meredith is out on loan. So we already have 4 goalkeepers. Bringing in another one, especially after the situation where Willis is the main starter ever since the team joins MLS, and then Panico comes in, now bringing a third character in.
Yeah.
That seems like it would be bad for team chemistry, and just I think that would probably lower. I mean, maybe Willis is a guy who, if he's challenged, then his level goes up a lot.
Changes.
But I think that it's too risky to do that.
I think that there's one other element to this, which is I think that good defenses rely on good communication. And I think that there's one thing about the defenses is that, whatever the Willis's errors have been, they have not been errors of communication. Mm-hmm. You have him brick-footing a bad pass against Atlanta. We have him spilling some balls. Those are all cases that are not communication issues. What seems to be the case is that whenever things are really set up well, with the exception of spot kicks, that there's good communication between him and the defense. Folks are covered. Folks are able to move well, and I think that that's something to be preserved.
Yeah, I think when you look at Willis, he's had some issues in this month, but he's played 2 years with Nashville, and he never really had. These are pretty uncharacteristic. The mistakes we've seen. They just seemed like the pass to give away the goal against Atlanta in the MLS game after the rain delay.
Yeah,
that was shocking because we had not seen that in so long. So I think
twice against Cincinnati to open the season last year, though.
That's true. He did.
Really terrible.
I forgot.
That was really terrible.
That was a shocker. The penalty he conceded against.
Right. Yeah.
How often do you see a goalie concede a penalty that way? Yeah. But beyond all that, he, for the most part, for 2 whole years, has done a great job. And yes, he's been he's had a great defense in front of him. But I think at the end of the day, he's still, I would consider him like a top, how many teams are in MLS? 20. I would say he's in the top half of MLS goalies.
Okay.
I'm not, he's no Matt Turner, he's no Andre Blake, but I think he's a pretty solid goalie who does the job right. So I think right now he should continue to be Nashville's number 1 if these things keep coming up. maybe more questions need to be asked. But I think right now, he's looking pretty solid to me. I think one thing we might want to look into doing, this is kind of predicament when it comes to when to play Panico, but because I think he needs to get a few more games in MLS to really evaluate where we are. I think the San Jose game actually seems like a perfect opportunity to put Panico out there because we're going up against the #1 goal scorer in MLS in Ebobisse. Yeah. He scored 2 against Nashville in the away fixture earlier this season.
Yep, and he looks awesome.
We're also going to be without Walker Zimmerman. So this is an opportunity where Ebobisse is going to get a chance to score. His teammates are going to feed him. He might get a free kick, or he might just get a nice through ball or something. He's going to have a chance. See what Panico can do against a team that overall is not that good, but who has one attacking player who can really shake things up and pose some challenges for him. I think that would be a great chance. My one worry would be if you go from Willis plays every game for 2.5 years straight, and then 3 games in a row, you get the backup goalie. That might do bad things for team chemistry or his confidence or things like that. So I that could just send a bad message to the fans, to Willis himself, to the rest of the team about his job security. So I think San Jose seems like a great matchup to give him. And I think in the San Jose game, quickly, I'm going to do a little score prediction. I have 2 score predictions.
Okay.
One of them is a 2-1 loss. The other is a 4-2 win.
Wow. Okay,
I think
those just
2 completely different outcomes. I think San Jose is going to score against Nashville, no matter if it's Willis or Panico in goal. I think San Jose will get on the board.
Get at least one.
But we saw it in the San Jose-Nashville game earlier this season. San Jose's defense, they just let Mokhtar run throughout.
He ran right out. He had like 30, 40 yards of nobody even wanting to challenge him.
And of course, there was the highlight where everyone's attention got drawn to it where Mokhtar scored. But throughout the game, he had many chances, easy chances he didn't put away, where the team just gave him all kinds of space. This San Jose team reminds me a lot of the Chicago Fire team we saw last season at Nissan Stadium, where they just let Nashville explode on the score sheet. So I think it's going to come down to, will Nashville take the opportunities? But with all that, I think that this is a good game for Panico because it's likely going to happen that San Jose is going to score 1 or 2. And, let's see what he can do with, let's just see how many saves he can make. And then I think if he makes mistakes, if he's not the right guy for that game, the offense can make up for it. And potentially it could be a high-scoring 4-3 or 3-3 draw or something like that. But I think this is a game we can learn from, because some people are going to chalk this up to an easy win. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think it's a good game to experiment.
I think that this is an interesting thought, which is that it's a good game to experiment. So this is one game that Panico could come in. Would you play him in the Cup games going forward?
That's a tricky one.
Or are the Cup games now too high risk and high reward for good results? So we're gonna go away to Orlando.
Yeah.
Would you put him on the field against Orlando?
See, for me, I think the quarterfinals are serious enough, and I think this is a trophy that Nashville needs to take seriously. And I said this before the Louisville game when we were in this exact same room. U.S. Open Cup, beyond it being a trophy, the first trophy in the team's history, potentially, it's also a trophy that gives you a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. So this is a trophy that means a lot, and if you lose in your first game or whatever, then you're like, okay, it's not a devastating loss, but if you have a chance to go out and win it all, and I think Nashville does have a serious chance. I think they're one of the top contenders right now.
It's a good path to the final, that's for sure.
I mean, I think that this is when you start taking it seriously. I would say I wouldn't be upset if Panico started against Orlando in the Cup quarterfinal, but if we were to win that game and go to the semifinal, I think once the semifinal happens, that is a game where whoever is your #1, you play in there regardless of Cup or not, and maybe Panico becomes the #1.
Maybe
we can't say
that's
yet.
entirely possible.
But
see how things look in the future. But
I think, and it's a little bit while until the Orlando game. I think it's at the end of the month.
Yep, I think it's 29th.
Yeah, so on the 29th, there's a little. I mean, I think we only have 2 games before that because it's kind of a short month in terms of fixtures. We have San Jose and Kansas City. I don't know if we play another one before the Orlando game.
Yeah.
But even then, if we do, it's 2 or 3 games before that Cup game. So who they go with in that game, I'm not quite sure. But I think now is the time where either this game or the semifinal, if Nashville were to make it, is when you start playing your best lineup in the Cup game, regardless of it being a Cup game or not. And we saw it against Atlanta. this was the round of 32 when Nashville put out
one
of its
the
best
A's.
lineups possible.
Yeah.
They had Mukhtar, Zimmerman, Davis on the field. Hawkinson got in. He got a start, but other than that, it was mainly the main 11. So I think now is when the Louisville game, against the championship side, that's when we put more of our reserves in.
Yep.
But now is when you put in, you treat it like an MLS game. You treat it like an MLS playoff game, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I think, back to the transfer market thing. I came into this video kind of not sure what I want us to do in the transfer market, but I've kind of talked myself into wanting Nashville to invest in various MLS talents as opposed to abroad, just because it seems like the front office or just Jacobs seems to scout better domestically. Okay. And of course we have general allocation money. We have enough to do it. I think scouting domestically, not taking a risk on these international attacking players because it hasn't worked out perfectly in the past, I think that is the path to go in the transfer market. Don't know if we need Checkmore. Don't know if we need Sakaza. I think invest domestically.
Do we need Loba in or out?
I'm just too. I think just from a loss aversion standpoint, I say keep him around a little bit longer because you would really hate to see we give him away for maybe hope.
There's going to be some day that we're going to let him go. There's someday he's going to go, and then you're going to see him score a banger somewhere.
That's why
someday.
I say just let him play.
You just don't want that. You just don't want to see that.
Maybe we sell him this summer, but I think once he starts playing well, then you sell him. Once you are able to get his. Because here's what I'm saying.
That's hilarious. You hope that he plays well so that we can make more money on selling.
Or not that he plays well. Let me reword.
That's hilarious.
Let me reword. Once he gets on the score sheet, then you sell him, because right now his transfer value is not going to be anywhere near what we bought him for.
Yeah.
But once you can get a little bit, a good chunk of that money back, that might be the time to sell.
Yeah, because no videos of his goals wearing a Nashville shirt are going to get him any money, right? Like that the goal against Louisville, and then the walk in against Cincinnati, and that's it.
Yeah, once he scores one highlight reel goal like the wheel goal against Montreal. Out.
Now, right. All right. Reid, thanks.
Absolutely.